All right, welcome to Speak Your Piece podcast. My name is Ian McNaughton. Joining me over Zoom, SYP creator Ravisher Dhaliwal. Ravi, what's going on, big guy? What's happening?
Not much, man. We're just
We're
get ready
falling
to
behind.
bet
We're
tomorrow. I
falling.
got a free 20.
I was gonna say we're falling behind on
Sorry.
classes.
Yeah, I tried that. The reason I'm not gonna be on top of the football too much today is because I didn't look at even who's playing because I've been on top of school. I'm trying to keep track of it. Try to keep track of that. Make sure I don't get behind because that's the last thing I want right now, especially my fourth year.
We are doing this Saturday night, September 18th. I can't think of anything better to do on a Saturday night than potting with one of my friends. Feet's going to some dump like the goat. Am I right?
Yeah. Let's get into the
All right.
spreads.
All right. There's three things I want to talk about football this week. Okay.
Sure.
First thing, we're coming off the Giants team formerly known as R Words from the Thursday night game. The highlight of that game was not Taylor Heineke throwing a late interception.
There was highlights in that game.
Well, the highlight of that game was J.D. McKissick gave me 15 fantasy points.
Yeah.
And then everybody's pissed off because Antonio Gibson doesn't get that touchdown and J.D. McKissick does. And I'm the one guy who starts McKissick, so I'm a genius. Second thing I want to talk about, I also have Aaron Rodgers in one of my fantasy leagues. I don't know who are the Packers. Oh, they're home on Monday night against Detroit. If Rodgers doesn't go off against the fucking Lions at home on Monday night after putting up 1.32 points the week before, he's on my trading block.
I don't think anyone's taking 1.32 points still. Is anyone taking that?
I think there are some people who are like, this guy's washed, or this guy doesn't care about football enough. There's definitely those takes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll be, who are they playing today or
They're
tomorrow?
They're playing the Lions on Monday night.
Monday. Oh, that was some Monday night game, and they could show off that he's better
at home against the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that should be light work realistically, but I mean, I don't know.
I can't handle another 1.32 weekend.
What if he gives you like 0.6? It just like it turns into like a half fight where he just cuts in half each.
Yeah, it's even worse, and he doesn't even like complete any passes. He's just like
doesn't complete any passes. They put in the backup.
Yeah, and they put in Jordan Love in like the start the second half, and it's just like I fucking hate this game.
Shout out to Dexter Lawrence. He won me $12 on Thursday. If it wasn't for that, I'm out of my free bet. But that was enough for me to cash out all my money, so I don't have like $50 in my betting account. I need a $50 minimum.
We need to do a who are you with? Are you with a Bodog, or who do you bet with?
Bet365.
Bet365. We should get a Bet365 sponsorship or some sort of advertisement where it's just like, listen, if you give us some money to sponsor your podcast, we will use that to gamble on your website.
Yeah, and I'll get addicted like chronically, and then they're like, "Oh, chronically," and then they just give us like give us all these free bets.
Oh yeah, it's like you know we will like, what is it? We will give you site credit up to $500 for your first miss. Like if your parlay doesn't succeed by like one or something, it's like we will give you up to $500 site credit. Must be used by October 17th. Join today using promo code Speak Your Bets or something.
Yeah. Something. What was the other thing you were saying?
The third thing I wanted to mention, the lines changed on this, but the Seahawks were favored at 5.5 against the Titans earlier in the week. Now it's up to 6.5. This is the first Seahawk game with fans with a full crowd since December 2019.
In Seattle?
In Seattle.
Damn, it's been a while.
Put your money on the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to do that anyways. I think I was going to I don't know if I put that 6.5. They gave me another $20 bet. These guys are like banking on me, like turning into chronic gambler, which I haven't so far. It's been 2 years, so I probably won't, hopefully.
Give me
soon.
$50 site credit to put on it.
Yeah.
I will do it.
I don't know. I don't know what the game. I might low key Cowboys might be good, but I'll let you finish.
Well, the thing was that the Titans got blown out last week by the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And if the Cardinals, who are not that great of a team, or at least they weren't last year defensively, if they can shut down the Titans, I think the Seahawks can figure it out.
Yeah.
Shut down Titans.
Yeah.
Although
sure.
Derrick Henry is a man's man.
Tannehill isn't though.
I have somewhere. Somewhere.
What about what's the guy they picked up this year? Fucking what's the name? I already forgot his name. How did I forget his name? He's literally one of the best.
Yeah, that's how highly.
Julio Jones, didn't they get him?
Oh yeah.
They have that guy too.
Good. But
he's kind of good.
He needs Tannehill to help him be good. And my latest quarterback rankings for this season, I have Ryan Tannehill at 17th behind.
Where's Fitzpatrick?
I have him 21st.
Okay.
Tannehill 17th, ahead of Trevor Lawrence, behind Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Ahead of Jameis Winston.
Ooh. I mean, it's been one game. I can't say anything. It's been one game.
Yeah, no, exactly.
He got a good first game. Only 150 yards. We had 5 touchdowns.
Well, yeah, and like a few of those were like one of them was like a jump ball to the tight end, and then the other was like a total pick play that the receiver was like wide open, and the Packers defenders like pointing like pick anything and like touchdown Saints. And then they start playing when the Saints come marching in. Is there a game that you're really excited for, that you're really looking forward to watching this weekend?
I don't know. Cowboys-Chargers, if it wasn't I don't know. It's like fun to watch when there's fans and they're playing the Chargers in LA. So I don't know about that, but Cowboys-Chargers I'm intrigued on just because, well, from a gambling standpoint too, just because Cowboys are underdogs. Where last week I bet against them because I was like no brainer, but this week like the Cowboys played good last week and like they barely lost. I wouldn't mind. I think Cowboys are the good underdog bet this week against the Chargers, in my opinion.
What's the spread on that?
-3 for the Chargers.
Oh yeah, I would take the Cowboys.
Yeah, I would. I think I might put my $20 free bet on the Cowboys because that's like $22 or something I'm making right there. I'll take that. If they win.
What's the money line on that?
+140.
I take I take the Cowboys.
Yeah, I take the Cowboys for sure. I think I might do that, and I'll put like a little $2, $3 parlay on something else, just to satisfy my gambling.
Just to have some rooting interest.
So at least it's only $1 or $2
on a Sunday, just to have some rooting interest. Chiefs Ravens is gonna be a tough one. That's on Sunday night. That's gonna be a good game though.
Chiefs Ravens,
and probably. Well, I was going to say part of the reason why they're going to say like the reason why there's no fan to the Chargers games is because, the 405 is backed up with people trying to get in and,
so many fans trying to get in.
But they're all going to be Chargers fans anyways, or they're going to be Cowboys fans anyway.
Yeah, they're doing Cowboys chants at the last game with the Bucks game last week.
Do you know that meme of like, I think South Park did it where they were doing like new NFL, but like it was just like sarcastable, like some made up sport, like it wasn't actually any NFL. But there's this meme of like one Chargers fan just sitting by himself. I want to see if I can find it. If I can find this image and send it to you, but it's really funny. The Chargers don't have a lot of fans, or at least I shouldn't say that. Chargers don't have a lot of fans in LA.
They should be back in San Diego, man. I never really got that move, the LA move from them.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, here it is. This is it. I want to see if I can copy link address. I'm figuring out technology while I'm talking about this. Put in a note. See if you can.
Let's see this.
Yeah, pretty much. See if you can see that photo.
I don't know if my camera's gone for a second.
No, your camera's gone. That's fine, but I'll carry the conversation. It's just one Chargers fan, slightly obese, eating nachos by himself, with nobody around him except for like fish. That's Chargers fans.
Oh, that's literally it. That's actually funny. That's a good one. I like that one. Speaking of Bucks earlier, my prediction is the Falcons go up by 30, and there'll be 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Tom Brady just does like a 2-minute drill of like football and just wins the game or something.
Onside kick recovered after onside kick recovered after onside kick recovered, and they like.
Was it the Falcons or the Cowboys last year who on the onside kick just like looked at the ball even though they realized like they didn't.
It was the Falcons versus the Cowboys, and
it was that game.
Yes, and the Cowboys were trying to attempt an onside kick, and like
it was
a.
They're like, hey, you guys can pick it up.
It was a poor onside kick, and it like. Basically like a golf putt. Bent like 5 yards, but none of the Falcons players were like, "No, I'm not touching it. You touch it." Well, we can't touch it.
You touch it. It's like no. Then they're like, wait, we're receiving. We can just pick it up.
Yeah,
it's just so stupid.
And then it got to 10 yards. It's like, well, now we are going to touch it because we're allowed to touch it. It's like, oh fuck, no, don't touch it, please, don't go out. And then the Cowboys got it.
And Falcons, I just watched a video of like Falcons choking last year. It was really funny. It was a good video.
All the games that they blew. The Chargers and the Falcons actually last year had like a game against one another, which is like both. It wasn't even a choke job. It's just both teams just not trying to win it. Essentially, like both teams just like, okay, neither one of you really want this win, do you? Like the final score turned out to be 23-20. It's like you guys are much better than this, but why? Okay. Any other NFL football gambling?
What's your bet to take? I guess tomorrow, like money line bet, just so for $20. I think it's Cowboys for me, but
I think Cowboys is a good one. Which I don't actually even know what.
Bengals Bears is pretty even. It's -2 Bears, but I wouldn't mind taking Bengals there because I know they're gonna do what they did last week. The Bears, they're gonna do the thing.
The Bears are so painful to watch.
I know.
I like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's probably favored, but to beat Las Vegas, I like Pittsburgh. They're at home. I think the Raiders are coming off a short week, and they got to go to Pittsburgh. I know
Ben looked a bit.
I know. That's the problem with betting the Steelers, that you're putting faith in Big Ben, which is like not the thing to do. But
yeah, in 2021.
Like their defense, I'm pretty sure will shut the Raiders down to like 3 touchdowns or less, and I think the Steelers offense can get more than 3 touchdowns against the Raiders. God, Denver Jacksonville, that might be an awful game. Who else is there? God, these games are really close. I might take Arizona.
Sorry?
Arizona against Minnesota. Minnesota did not look. Basically, I watched the Seahawks game last week, and then once the Seahawks game transitioned from the Seahawks to the Vikings-Bengals, that was a completely different game.
Yeah, that was wild. It was a weird game.
So I might put money on Arizona, the Steelers.
I don't know. I bet against the Cowboys last week.
If the Rams are like underdogs, I might put money on the Rams.
Rams are not dogs, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're -185, -3.5 favorites.
Yeah, I don't really like the Colts then as home dog.
Yeah, I mean the Colts didn't play too bad last week either.
Yeah,
Carson Wentz.
Arizona, Steelers, Seattle, Cowboys. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Chargers. Seattle, Cowboys, Arizona, Pittsburgh. Those are Big E's lock of the week.
Let's just do that as my parlay now.
Pretty much. Just get that set up now and put $3 on it.
$3 to make 10 million because they're not going to.
Well, no, you have to throw in like some random cricket match to like.
Oh yeah, and like it's got to be like in like one that's already in session, but they're losing by like an astronomical amount, where it's like impossible for them to come back. So it's like plus 50,000. Try to spice it up.
It's like oh well, I was gonna say like they're 380 over 20, and and it's just like that you know what? I believe in this team. I believe
in it.
I believe in them. All right, let's move it on. Basically, Rav and I think for like probably the next couple of weeks, whenever we have time, we're gonna be doing some redrafts for the NHL drafts that have taken place in the past. You guys sent us 3 different drafts that you wanted us to do, and we're gonna do those 3 different drafts tonight.
Yeah,
or today, whenever this comes out. We're gonna be doing the 2009 NHL draft. We're gonna be redrafting that.
Yeah, this one was a weird draft. It was. I think it was underwhelming. It was definitely underwhelming.
Well, it's top heavy.
Yeah, it very top heavy.
So basically, you have. Let me go back to see who's actually drafted. So basically, this was the John Tavares, Victor Hedman, Matt Duchene, Evander Kane, Braden Shen, OEL. Nathan Kadri's in this draft.
Then it kind of falls off from that point. There's the guys, the main guys in there like O'Reilly and stuff, but you got some Rundblads, Payarvis in there.
My favorite is Cameron Abney, former Everett Silvertip, who I could probably post this on SYP. Has the one punch knockout that I saw live in person when I was still living in the States. So that was cool.
Who else is here? Jesse Blacker played 1 game. Who else played 1 game? Scott Glennie played.
Scott Glennie. He also took a penalty in that game too.
Nice. That's a good start to the career, obviously.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
Those are a lot of the names. Some of the more significant names in this draft. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna go from 20 to 1. Basically, we're going to go from bottom to top, and we will each do like, are you doing odd or even?
I'll do even. So I guess I'll go from 20.
You're going to do 20, 18, 16, etc. I'm going to do 19, 17, 15, etc. I'm just getting the team set up for where we're going to pick here. But are you going by like what this team needed at the time? Or are you going by...
I tried to. At least I tried. There's a few teams where I was just like, okay, I don't know what their point of view is right now, so I'm just gonna go with the best available. Like for like the 20th for the Devils pick at 20th, I'm pretty sure it's Devils. Imagine I get this wrong.
Yes.
So the New Jersey Devils, I had. I guess do you want to start soon or do you want to start right now?
Whatever. you can tell me who your pick is.
So I guess I'll give background here. Jacob Josephson was the 20th overall pick in the 2009 NHL entry draft. He was a guy that I always thought was going to be like he could turn out to be like a second line player, and he never ended up working. I think he had his first 2. He had a little stint in Albany. Came up for a few years, went back down, and then he actually was on the team for a few years, like 5-6 years there. Went to Buffalo and then went back to Djurgården in the Swedish Hockey League. He's still there right now, actually, so he's still going. He's a guy I thought turned out. He didn't turn out. So I guess for this one, I did try to go for what they could need in that season. I looked at their lineup, and for that season, 09-10, which is the next season afterwards, and they were actually first in goals. They're first in goals against. So I guess they didn't need a new goalie, but Brodeur is 36, 37 at this point.
He's getting on at this point.
Yeah, so he's getting off. So I put Darcy Kemper as my 20th pick.
Okay.
That's who I have at 20th. I think you might have him a bit higher, honestly, which I wouldn't be surprised because there's a lot of things that a lot of teams need a lot of stuff back then. This team had Kovalchuk, Parise, Langenbrunner. Elias was still pretty good too. He's only 33. So that Zubris, Nicholas Bergforce Young, he looked like he had potential too. But I think they need a new goalie. The Brodeur was obviously still good, and obviously the next season after this draft, he won the gold medal. But I don't know. You need another goalie after Brodeur. Jan Denis had a good backup year, but I don't know if you want him as your starter. 28 and he's a backup. I don't know if you want to put a 28-year-old backup in a starting position. So I put Darcy Kemper there.
I also had Kemper at 20.
Oh, you actually did. That's nice.
I actually did. the weird thing about Kemper, so he played for the Red Deer Rebels, right?
Yeah.
In the dub. His career, I just felt like was really slow to really like get to the point where he is now.
And that is a lot of goalies too. You also got to remember, but to the fact that like he's always known as the backup up until just a few years ago on the Coyotes when he took the job and he got what was it, 2018, I think was the big.
Well, him and Ron have been splitting time for the last 2 years.
Yeah, he had in 2019 55 games, 925, and that came out like the season before where he had an 899. Well, he had a 932 in LA, but in Arizona he had an 899. So he was all over the place, but came back next year and was cooking.
Well, and that's what made sense with Brodeur, right? Like the fact that Kemper took so long to finally get to the starting role. He could have been he was a quality backup, and that would have been really good with Brodeur. Considering that Brodeur and the Devils still went to a cup final after the draft.
Which is still like they're only I think they went to game 6. They I think it was 3-1 and they won a game and then they went to game 6. I'm pretty sure is what happened from what I remember. That was the year they were.
Well, I was gonna say they had. I think it was Scott Clemenson who was their backup goalie.
Yeah, I think it was. It was Clement. I don't think Denis was on the team anymore. I think he may have been in Montreal or out of the league. I forgot where. But yeah, that's my pick for 20th. I'm happy it didn't happen because if it didn't happen, we wouldn't have had the Schneider for the Horvat pick trade. So I'm happy it didn't happen that way because I'm much happier with Bo Horvat.
Yeah, I mean, it was like he's a starter now. It's a weird kind of transition how his career's turned out. He's bounced around a couple places, but 20th makes a lot of sense to New Jersey.
Yeah, he could have went higher. You could say like there's a lot of guys that are much higher that like I don't know. It depends on what the team needs. I try to go off like what the team, like what their management would pick, but for that one, I think Kemper would have been a good fit.
Okay, 19th overall is my pick. New York Rangers are drafting here. I have Riley Smith going to the Rangers at 19.
Who? Sorry, I didn't cut off. What did you say?
Riley Smith. I had Riley Smith going.
Riley Smith.
Riley Smith.
Sorry.
So Smith has a couple of solid seasons in Florida. He's got a 50-point season in 2015-16. He's got a 40-point season in 2014-15 with Boston. And then his career really takes off when he goes to Vegas, where he got the 60-point season in the after the expansion draft. Couple 50-point seasons. He only got 25 points this past year with Vegas. Shooting percentage, it hovers around 10%. He shoots a little bit higher. Sometimes you got a 16% in there. You got a 13% in there. You're really getting him for his playmaking. Yeah. But
no, he's a pretty good. He's a pretty good offensive player. He definitely got into his own when he went to Vegas. That's a good pick. I guess I don't know. I'll leave my pick for what I had there later.
Sure.
I can change it up a bit.
I was just gonna say, Smith 19 go to the Rangers. They get another quality forward. That's my pick for them.
That's a good pick. I understand. I guess we all move on to 18th. Habs. Sure. Habs. 18th overall. Who was their actual pick here? I just want to try it just so 19th they took Kreider. The Rangers as well. That pick's a pretty good pick. I don't know if there's much. I don't think they're not really. I don't think they'd ever be mad at that pick. 18th Montreal took Louis LeBlanc. He was also a guy I thought eventually he might break out and he had a decent season, 11-12, 10 points, 42 games. Not that bad. Came back at 13-14, nothing. And then I don't know what happened to him after 15-16. There's no stats on him. Yeah, guy never worked out. I went with Jakob Silfverberg there. That one, I don't know. That was a I don't know if it was I don't think it was a weird one. I had Silfverberg earlier, going a bit earlier. It was him and Smith. I was kind of all over the place with. I had Smith at 11th at one point on my end, but I brought him down a bit. Let me get to the Habs roster. Plekanec had 70 points. He was leading the team. After is Scott Gomez, 59, Camilleri, 50, Giunta, 46. And after that, it's, falls off. You got Marc-Andre Bergeron as their 5th leading scorer. To have a goal scorer on that team would be great. I think Gianto is probably their best goal scorer at that point. He's a pure goal scorer at this point, 31 years old, 28 goals, 18 assists. But Camilleri, I guess, too. But Mechanics was a good playmaker, 45 assists. Or again, like probably playing alongside either Kostitsyn or Camilleri, one or the other. I kind of mix that up. But having Silfverberg on that wing, on that right wing, would probably be pretty good for me. That's what I think.
Well, what's interesting with Silfverberg, right, is so he's still with Anaheim. He's carved himself like a pretty good career with the Ducks because he was a part of which trade was that he was a part of again? Because he was originally drafted by Ottawa, right?
Yep.
And he was a part of the Bobby Ryan trade.
That's what it was.
That's what it was. And he's carved himself a nice role with the Ducks when, it's kind of unfortunate for Silfverberg when
especially last season was pretty bad for him too. I don't blame him for last season either. Like he had a good few years before that too, but I don't know.
Last year I think says more about Anaheim when Max Comtois is your leading scorer.
Yeah.
Than it does about Silfverberg. But the thing with him was that he joined the team kind of when the core was getting old, like the Perrys and the Getzlav, and it just didn't quite work out.
Yeah. A weird thing about Silfverberg, he's actually I don't think he's ever had a 50-point season, but he really does play the best in the playoffs. That's why you always want a guy who turns up in the playoffs. That's why I always like Sam Bennett. Like I always thought like if he's on a good enough team, he'd be like pretty good. And obviously we went to short sample size. He went to Florida and he killed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like having guys like that, he hasn't been in the playoffs in a few years, so I don't know about that now, but to have a guy who could come in the playoffs and just like turn it up a notch, because a lot of guys, like I don't know if they take a step down, it's just harder to score in the playoffs. But if a guy's taking a step up in the playoffs, that's a guy you want on your team. And I think Silfverberg would have been a good fit alongside, maybe not Mechanics, but Scott Gomez, and like maybe he actually scores in the 2011-12 season, or whatever season that was where he wasn't scoring.
Well, and the frustrating thing, I don't know if it's frustrating for him. It probably is frustrating for him. I'm sure he wants to go play for a winning team. And
I hope he gets traded out, by the way.
Well, that's just it. It's like Brian Murray's been so tough to like try and trade dudes, right?
Yeah.
And it just hasn't happened because I think the asking price is too high for somebody like Silfverberg. So that's why he's probably going to be in Anaheim. Maybe he gets traded this season. Who knows? But I'll be honest. I don't have Silfverberg in my top 20. So I was a little bit surprised to hear that, but I do like where you're coming from the Habs perspective on that.
I mixed up, like there's three guys that like I thought like could have fit in that position. I just went with Silfverberg because like he fit. It was like this one guy that like had actually played for that team and didn't work out. Obviously, I think you know who that is. Maybe not, but it was him, Kreider or Silfverberg, and I felt like Silfverberg would have been the best fit. And I mean, I'm looking at it from like this, like the 2021 too. Like obviously Kreider and the Habs don't have a good relationship, would never have a good relationship. And the other guy I'm thinking of, but yeah, I went with Silfverberg. I think that he'd even play like better than he did in Anaheim. I think he'd be consistent 50-60 point guy on that team.
Okay. I got the Blues at 17 here.
St. Louis.
And the guy I have for
let me get who went 17th. 17th was David Rundblad. That was a defenseman. I also thought he could be a good top 4 guy. Never ended up being that. Still got 100 games in.
And now the Blues defense isn't actually too bad. Like it's actually
pretty good.
Still pretty good. I'm gonna say the Blues. Who do they take here? Yeah, they take Chris Kreider here.
Chris Kreider, I had Chris Kreider there too.
They take. I originally had Kreider here. It was between him and somebody else, but Kreider. I know there's the jokes like Heater always jokes about him like going offside blatantly all the fucking time.
Yeah. Oh.
But
I know. Yeah, everyone knows it.
But he's got. He got 53 points, 16-17. He got 52 points in 18-19.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 20-goal season last year in 50 games. Like, that's pretty good. Like, that's a 30, 35-goal pace right there. Like, I'm taking that, man.
Yeah. He's got 6 seasons of 20 goals, about 17 minutes of ice time. You know what you're getting with Chris Kreider. I don't think he doesn't have great playoff stats, but I mean, he's got one good year of playoff stats in 14-15.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know what you're getting with him. He can be a really good middle six player for the Blues.
Yeah.
In a like, I don't want to say a deep, but like, you know, on that Blues team at the time, I'm pretty sure you had like David Backes, Patrick Berglund.
Backus. Probably young Oshie too.
Young Oshie. Who else? Oh, I was just thinking about Berglund. Paul Stastny, I think, is on the Blues at this time as well, on the Blues team. Like, you have a pretty good forward group with the Blues, and you throw in Kreider there, you get some speed. Him and Oshie on a line would be really fucking cool to watch. Young Kreider, young Oshie. I'm gonna take Kreider for the Blues at 17.
That exactly who I had in that position as well. I guess we can move on to the next one. I think that pick for St. Louis would have been a good pick too. Much better than Rundblad, obviously. 16th, Minnesota. They took Nick Leddy. So that's who they took originally. I actually have Nick Leddy a bit higher. So 16th overall, Wild. I have Thomas Tatar. That's who I have there.
Okay.
It was a weird one. I don't know. Minnesota, I never really get their plan. Like, I never get what they want to do with their team. I don't
know if Minnesota knows what they want to do either.
Yeah. Nick Leddy, if he played for that team, like, at all, like, I don't know if that would have worked out, just because in the next season, like after this draft, they were 21st in goals against, and I don't know if Nick Leddy really helps. I know he's a defenseman, but he's more of an offensive guy. He's more the guy you want on the power play kind of thing. Not to say he's bad defensively. I just don't think they needed him. Whereas Tatar is a better two-way guy. He's better than, I mean, Andrew Brunette did have a 60-point season that year. Tatar has a 70-point season that year alongside Koivu. Koivu had 70 points. I think Tatar could have had, like, maybe not that Tatar, but like 5 years down the line, you get Tatar, you got Koivu, you got maybe Havlat if you still going. But, you know, that's a good top line. That's a top line that can get you 60, 70 points. I think Tatar would be better than Brunette. I think it's an upgrade. And the guy was 36 at that time as well. So I think Tatar would have fit in perfectly.
Tatar, I think you either love him or hate him.
I love him. I don't. The only reason I like people hate him now is because of the Habs situation, which also I don't believe it's his fault. Like, it's brutal. It's just so dumb to me how you don't play a guy that good, even though it did work out for them. They made 3 games away from him winning a Stanley Cup.
Where you just fall ass upwards, like you just fall upwards into success somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I really like the Devils picked him up. It is good. I guess a lot of people thought, like, oh, he should have been cheaper. He's healthy scratched throughout the playoffs. And I mean, people don't understand. Like, everyone knows he's a good player. I think it's just the Habs and had a bad relationship. I think everyone knows Thomas Tatar is good.
Well, and also
just the fit wasn't good there.
I was gonna say also the Devils need scoring too, so like pay a little bit extra. Okay, so in Tatar, I also have a bit of a thing for because he's a Red Wing.
Yeah, no, that's what made him a fan. Like, I always loved how he was in Detroit. He was a good player too there. I obviously the Vegas situation didn't work out, but I think once he went to Montreal, it kind of worked out for a bit, but then went down. I hope he works out for him in New Jersey just because he is a really good hockey player.
So that was 16 to Minnesota. You went with Tatar. Yeah. Okay. I have 15, which is the Anaheim Ducks.
Peter Holland originally.
Holland.
I had a good career too, like a decently, like 266 games, but I remember he was on Toronto for a good amount of time there too.
Well, it was just like Guelphin Jr., and then he got to Toronto for a bit, and I think the Leafs tried to make it work, and it just never
which I wanted to happen to because I remember like he always is the guy, like, oh, he has, like, it's always the guy. I always get the guys like, oh, they might do something, they might do it, and they never do.
And then it turns out he's just a better Marley than he is a Maple Leaf. And it just doesn't happen at the next level.
Yeah.
I could really screw Scott's Ducks here. I could take Scott Glennie. I could take Kevin McNaughton.
No, not Kevin McNaughton.
Oh God, who else? I could take a bunch of Louis LeBlanc. I could take a bunch of guys to screw Scott here.
Jordan Schroeder.
That one's
rough. That one's a rough one.
I actually originally had Tatar at 15, Anaheim.
Sorry.
I originally had Tatar 15 Anaheim.
Yeah.
In
I said he is a good fit for that team as well. Their best like pure left winger was Matt Bolesky. So to have anyone better than him is probably good.
Instead, I'm gonna Anders Lee. I'll take for the Ducks.
Anders Lee, that's a good one.
I had him 18th in my redraft going to Montreal. He goes 15th in this redraft. Like almost all Islanders now. There's like this sort of like this Islanders bump at the same time. It's a shelter role because you're playing for the Islanders. Like you're expected to play a one way if you're Barry Trotz.
Yeah.
And Lee does a really good job of that.
Yeah, that's why I always think he's one of the best captains of the league. He doesn't talk as much to like, he's not a media guy as much as like a lot of other captains maybe, but he does like anytime you see him in the media, like he is a good, like you can see why they picked him as captain over other guys.
Yeah.
I always think he's a good player. Obviously the injuries have hurt him in the past few years, but like he's only a few years removed from having 40 goals daily. Like I know I don't know if that was the season he was playing with John Tavares or I forgot which one. I forgot which season he actually did get 40 goals in, but pull that up. That up, Jamie.
Well, like the thing with Lee too is like we talk about this with Barzell, but the same applies for Lee. Like imagine if he played for a different team.
Yeah,
even though he kills it with his role for the Islanders, and he probably really loves his role with the Islanders right now, and playing in front of those home fans, and
so that was the year with Tavares and Barzell.
Okay, and like
but hey, they use a minus 25 that season. Next season, he gets 10 less points, 10 less goals, but he's a plus 20. So that's a plus 45 difference. Okay, so like you also got to remember, like the guy can do on both ends.
I think that's the Trotz impact too that year.
Yeah, I mean, that also helps too. So have him this year, if he didn't get injured this year, I think he would have. I don't know. He could have been the guy to score a goal in Game 7. To like they only needed a goal in overtime. What fuck happens, right?
He seems like somebody who would have a lot of playoff success. Like
it's unfortunate just because he is such a talented player. He literally screams playoffs if you think about it, really.
The injuries have kind of held him back a little bit.
Yeah, he had a decent playoff run last year, 11 points, 22 games plus 4.
Yeah, like he just seems like somebody who would be a really good like second line winger on a playoff team that can make a deep run.
Yeah, people give shit about his contract. What is it, 7? I think it's capped at $7 million. That's not too bad. I don't think it is a bit longer. And the style he does play does like, those guys taper off a bit quicker. I don't think he's going to do like a Brandon Dubinsky to like taper off where he just falls off a cliff or like one of those guys. But I think he can still keep going. I think he'll be worth the money just from his leadership alone. Just because I don't know. I think a guy like that is pretty good for the Islanders right now. And I think he would have worked out well. In Anaheim, is that the pick? Yeah,
Anaheim. Or Lee to Anaheim.
Yeah, it kind of went on an Islanders rant there, but just talking about him. But yeah, I think in Anaheim that would have been a good fit as well.
14. This is your pick. In real life, the Panthers took Dmitry Kulikov, who is still getting quite a few, offers. He's played over 700 career NHL games.
He's had a great career, I think. He's always been a good defenseman. There's a few bad years in there, but he's always been steady. Like he's been in the league for, to be in the league for 11 years, you got to be good at something.
Who do you have the Florida Panthers taking redraft?
I had 15th. I had actually Nick Leddy, so I might have to change that up later on. I think for where I want to switch him with, it kind of works out perfectly for me, so that's good. 14th, I had Tyson Barrie.
Ooh.
Actually, that was one I did. I'd also kind of just threw in there. I'm
not gonna lie, that's really low compared to where I had Barrie.
Yeah, I see why you might have Tyson Barrie a bit higher. Again, Tyson Barrie led the league in the defenseman scoring this year, but not a single vote for the Norris. First time that's ever happened. 28th. Okay, so 20 like the next season after this draft. 2009-10, almost last in goals for, 20th, 30th in goals against for the Florida Panthers. They had a good good group of defensemen there. They had Ballard, Seidenberg. They had Kulikov as well, young Kulikov, 19 years old. They played him 70 games. Poor fucking guy. Scott Clemenson's the backup this year as well. Vokum, a young Alexander Salak. That was a name also I haven't heard of since I was probably 11 playing NHL 10. Ryan McCabe, he's 34, but he's still doing damage, right? To have a guy like Tyson Barrie helps on the back end because this team is really defensively, defensively made just because Stephen Weiss was their leading scorer, 60 points. What are your thoughts on Stephen Weiss as a Red Wings fan?
Wow.
Sorry.
I was not expecting Stephen Weiss Red Wings conversation.
I guess they did have Jason Garrison before, like he popped off for his one good season, then we signed him and he turned to garbage. But they had a few. Sorry,
no, they got rid of Garrison and then they won the cup. Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I think to have an offensive defenseman in there wouldn't hurt, like considering it's just an all defensive lineup, and to have like all that defense and have a pretty good goalie in Vokun who had a 925 and still be 20th in goals against. I think you might as well just throw Barrie in there just because at least he gets you points. Barrie would probably be the leading scorer on that team too, or like near there. Like I guess this time was also different where it's less goal scoring, but I still see like Barrie putting up 40, 50 points like with this team, like in that era.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
A bit for shits and giggles, I had Barrie going 7th to the Leafs in this redraft.
But I'll tell you why 7th when it happens, but it's just a Leafs pick.
But the thing with Barrie, so Barrie was in Colorado for a while. He was fine with Colorado. He gets traded for Kadri. It doesn't work in Toronto. Yeah. And I don't want to say it becomes quite obvious, but like it just doesn't work in Toronto. Like it's it's quite clear that
if you look at the stats, it obviously seems like it was like good enough. Like it's pretty good, but you got to remember like how you're watching Leafs games, you can just tell it's not a good fit.
It's not working with how they like to play and how he likes to play. It's just not working.
Yeah,
and
I think it works out in oil for Edmonton right now, just because it works. Like their power play is lethal to have like those guys, and then you have Barrie, who's one of the best offensive specialists in the game. So.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it makes sense. And I mean, I liked him coming out of junior because he was a former Kelowna Rocket. So it's like, I know where he's playing. But I don't know if we overrate him a bit because.
Yeah, I'd make sure to not overrate him just because I think everyone does.
Well, I think because of the fact that there's part of me that's like he's a bit overrated because he has the one bad Toronto season. But at the same time, he's the leading offensive scorer for defensemen, and he doesn't get a single Norris vote.
Yeah, he also which is also weird because for the Selke they really do base it off points, don't they? Because
mostly they don't even really.
Sorry,
you have to be a defensive centerman who can score.
Yeah, like the year that Kessler got 41 goals when he won the Selke. Obviously, I don't think he was you could like there's so many arguments made that season too. Like he wasn't even the best defenseman or defensive forward, but he had 40 goals and he was good enough at he was still above average. Like the guy was like top 10 probably defensive forwards, but there's better guys out there where it's like where they don't put that same like I guess the voters don't put the same criteria for the best defenseman award, which is also weird to me just because they're both similar where it's like defensive forward, defensive defenseman, I guess. I don't know. It's all over the place with the voting. I never really get a lot of the voting in the NHL.
Well, and the other thing about I don't know if Barry's a bit ahead of his time because he probably joined the NHL at the right time, maybe a little bit early.
Yeah, I guess like in 10 years, like Barry would be like a pretty good player just because I feel like the game will just progress to be more offensive too. So I feel like if you came down later down the line, that's my opinion as well.
Well,
it's like I feel like.
Well, like, and what we like, not what we know, but how we now, like, how we were valuing the PK Subbans and the Erik Karlssons of the world compared to like the Duncan Keiths.
Yeah, where you could tell in like 2014, for example. I think that's the biggest like the Olympics. like, Duncan Keith, the Vlasic, but then you have Subban on the bench who's like Norris. Like it's stupid. I never really got why Subban didn't play in that.
Well, and I'm not comparing Barry to like Subban, Carlson. Like I don't think he's that good or that quality defenseman, but I do think that a Barry, maybe if Tyson Barry enters the draft maybe 3 or 4 years later, he might even be more valuable than where is he 14th on a
sure.
draft.
I was just thinking, like in general, like if the game continues to become more offensive again, or like it's not like the Jamie Benn like leading the league and scoring with 80 points or whatever it was. Yeah, it's like it becomes like McDavid was on pace for 150 points, given he's playing against Canadian teams, but like 150 points is 150 points against professional athletes, right? So like with the game becoming more offensive again, I feel like this is his time to really become like that offensive defenseman guy. It's always nice to have a guy who can play be that power play specialist. But Barry does tend to be a lackluster on the defensive side, which does kind of suck. And I don't know, that Nurse Barry pairing, it obviously looks good on paper, but they didn't win a single playoff game.
I think that's just who the Oilers are. Well, Scott and I will talk more about the Oilers in our playoff.
Yeah, but preseason. So Florida 14th. I have Barry. I just think that offensive power right there would be good for that team.
13th, Buffalo
Sabres.
Who do they take in real life?
Zach Kassian.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's there. There you go.
182 career points for Zach Kassian.
800 penalty minutes exactly.
He couldn't at least get to 200 points for the redraft.
He played with McDavid. If he didn't play with him, he probably would have had like 100. So
I think I'm gonna stick with I probably could go with somebody different here, but I think I'm gonna go this.
I went with like a completely different outlook than Sabres had.
What I
had.
I think. How do I want to do? You know what? It's good. I think you're gonna pick this guy. You might pick this guy later. You might not. I'm gonna pick Nazem Kadri 13.
Ooh,
the Sabres.
I do have him later on, much later on actually.
You have Kadri later on.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you have. I'm gonna guess you have this other guy later on too, but that I was thinking. You have this other guy that I was thinking about picking, but I think you'll take him later on. But I'm gonna go with Kadri. Okay, I'm gonna pick Kadri. Things ran its course in Toronto. I think Kadri when Kadri's had this weird career timeline where he joins in at a weird time, and then all of a sudden he's now this
bad time,
and then all of a sudden he's like the 1C on the Leafs, and he's not a 1C. He's just not a 1C, and those were dark days for the Leafs when he's 1C. So all of a sudden the Leafs started picking up guys. They started accumulating picks and all this sort of stuff. And he gets to be like the 3C, an elite 3C, or a really good 3C that he should be. And then it's a fit. It works well. And then he gets suspended. And then he gets suspended in multiple playoff series against Boston. It's like, okay, things just run its course. It's just not working. Yeah. We have to do something different, and we have to trade you.
And then the Barry Kadri.
And then the Barry Kadri trade. I like Kadri. I think he's a good fit with Colorado now.
Yeah, I think he's a good second line center. I really think he's a good center. As for a team that I don't know if they'll probably have cap issues once McKinnon stuff is all up, because that guy is like 12, 13, 14, 15 million dollars right there. Who's getting $6. I think he's a good fit on to have a second liner as good as he is on a team that front heavy, with their defense, their goalie, and their forward core. I think to have a guy like Kadri who's doesn't make too much, but is worth that contract is pretty good in Colorado at least. I think in Buffalo that's a good pick. I didn't have him there. But I think that's a good pick. Buffalo just needed anything. Like always, they just need something. And I feel like to have a guy like Kadri would have worked out there though.
Well, and what's nice about Kadri and that he does this when he's in Toronto when Matthews and Tavares get there. He does this in Toronto and he's doing it in Colorado right now, where he's a really good change of pace center. He's not all skill. He will get into the dirty areas. He will make your life painful. He will make it tough for you. He will cross the line. He's done that a few times, but
and again, I don't even blame him for you always want a guy like that. Like maybe he does take it too far, obviously, but the DeBrusk stuff, I don't actually blame him for, but like the Wingles hit, I never really like that one. But
that was the one on Marlowe, wasn't it?
No, the Marlowe one was DeBrusk, and then like DeBrusk was just being a piece of garbage that whole game. Yeah. So I see why. But the Tommy Wingles one was just pure anger from him. Like you need to let go of that. And obviously this past postseason it happened again where he got suspended. With the Justin Falk hit. But if he's not doing that in the playoffs, this guy is a good playoff performer too. So like he doesn't have much. It's a short sample size, 36 games in total. But, like in 2020, he had 18 points in 15 games, 9-9. That's something right there. That's a team with McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen. He's doing that.
Well, and he's not even like a dirty player per se.
Yeah, he's not a dirty player at all. He has the dirty spurts. I guess you could obviously say that's a dirty player. But he's not like going around like spearing people all the time like Marchand was in his prime.
Yeah, or like Tom Wilson. Days.
Yeah.
Like
Kadri plays the game rough, and the only time really when Kadri is doing that stuff is to stick up for a teammate. I forgot. Yeah. I think because I remember there's a bad hit that Ryan Lindgren did a few years back, where like only 2 years back, and he fought Lindgren, made him like bleed, but it was like a good. It was like that's something that he should do more. Whereas like instead of jumping the guy or doing what he did to DeBrusk or the hit on Falk, like the hit on Falk was also one where like it shouldn't have happened.
Oh no, that was a dirty hit though.
That was a dirty. Oh yeah, that was a bad hit. I agree with that. It's just the fact that like he shouldn't, especially 2-0 up in a series, you can't be doing that. They need you. Like they need a second line center. Then like, I don't know if the series is different next round, but having Kadri there would have been much better.
Kadri is my pick 13th for the Sabres. 12.
Okay, sorry. So 12th, Islanders originally took Calvin DeHaan, who also I thought he'd be on a Ryan Ellis level, who's the next pick. I thought he could be that level. He never ended up being that. He's more of like I think he's more of a fifth, sixth defenseman guy on a team. I don't think he's a fringe seventh. I think he's pretty good, but he's more of a bottom pairing, maybe like a top four guy, fringe top four, but he's been a good player throughout his career, but I don't have him there. Originally I had 13th. I had Robin Lehner going to the Sabres just because they need a goalie, in my opinion. And then 12th, I had Anders Lee. So I guess if we're doing it as if like I'm actually drafting in this position, like I lost my players, I probably would take Robin Lehner. We're also doing the draft backwards. So it's kind of a bit weird here. But Robin Lehner, I guess I'll move to the Islanders pick.
Next time we'll go 1 to 20, I think.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, it worked out too. Like it's not too bad. Just because it's also nice to know, like you save the best picks for last, so it works. It's different both ways. Islanders. Also, you could say it works here just because their goalies are Dwayne Rolison, who's like holding on by this much. He's
Rolly the goalie. He has that playoff run with Tampa Bay in 2011. And I would have loved to have seen. I think the Canucks would have definitely won in 2011 had they faced 40 whatever Dwayne
41,
41-year-old, 42-year-old Dwayne Rolison instead of Tim Thomas, who was the best goalie. Tim Thomas, who was the best goalie in the world for 2 weeks.
When he got the big pads. Anyways, Marty Biron's the backup, and then Rick DiPietro's a third stringer. To have Robin Lehner in there obviously would be much better, and it worked out when Robin Lehner was there. Obviously, the defense definitely, the defense on the Islanders definitely brings up goalie stats, like the basic goalie stats. But I mean, Robin Leonard's a good goalie, so I think Robin Leonard would have worked out in that situation as well.
Robin Leonard has a really tough start to his career where he has to play in Ottawa and Buffalo.
Yeah, and Ottawa doesn't deal with him correctly the way they should. And then Buffalo, I think he said I think he's set.
Buffalo throws him out to the Wolves, and then they're like, "Here, you want to start? Here, we'll give you 60 games or whatever." And it's just like, okay, but you have no defense. It's like tell that to Tyler Myers or whatever.
Yeah. I've also like I think he always talks about how like he still likes Buffalo like as the city and like the fans, but I don't know if he had I think he said like he wanted to go back just to make things right or something. He does say a lot of stuff on Twitter, so it's probably mixed up in my head, but I think he would fit well with Islanders. Any goalie that's remotely good fits well with that team because that's all you need really, especially right now. But at that time they just had 3. I mean, Rolison wasn't bad. Obviously, next season, Baron's a backup. DiPietro's bad. So, I mean, to have Robin Leonard in there would be pretty good. And he's obviously an elite goalie now. So to have that there would have been good at that time as well.
What I'm interested, part of why Leonard does so well in Long Island is because of the culture change with the Barry Trotz and Lou Lamoriello running of the team by the time he gets there. And I don't know that the previous regime would have had the patience to deal with Leonard.
Exactly. So it's hindsight's 2020 there. But I just still believe, if they like, I guess if they deal with it correctly, the way they deal with it now, and it worked out for him, I think it could have been a really good pick. I always see him leaving anyways, just like how he did 2 years ago. But yeah, hindsight's 2020 with that stuff, especially with goalies nowadays too.
Next on the board, 11.
Nashville.
So
they originally took Ryan Ellis, who worked out great there. He had great seasons there. I think 1 or 2. They make it a game 5 or game 6 of the finals.
Game 6. That was a boring game 6.
Yeah, Patrick Hornquist. But yeah, a few goals. You're 2 goals away from going to game 7 of a Stanley Cup final. And against
the back-to-back Pittsburgh back-to-back Cup Penguins.
And like Subban, like, he had a great season. Not like Norris level, but still like fucking elite. I always thought Ryan Ellis was a good fit on that team, and it worked out. They're only 2 games away from winning a Stanley Cup, and he's always been great. He's always a guy that like I've watched since I was like 9-10 years old, especially. I think he was on the ice when Eberle scored that goal against Russia in the World Juniors. I think he was on the ice on that goal.
Yeah, probably.
But he was on the team for sure. But yeah.
11, I'm gonna go with Nick Leddy.
Sorry, you cut out. Nick Leddy, you said, right?
Nick Leddy.
That's I guess have we gone with Nick Leddy yet? I completely forgot. Sorry.
I don't think so.
We haven't gone with Nick Leddy. No, we haven't. Nick Leddy, that's a good pick though. It's always good to have like a power play specialist type guy there, which I don't know if Ryan Ellis was necessarily that, but he was really good offensively.
Leddy just seems like a Predators defenseman.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, he just seems like somebody who, like, because Nashville has been one of the best teams for just scouting defensemen in the last 10 years. And I just think like Ryan Ellis is really the start of that.
Yeah.
The other guy in this draft who will probably pick Matthias Ekholm as well.
That's actually who I had there.
Okay.
Because it worked out perfectly just to have him there. Also, my top 10 is wild. Like from 6 to 9, 6 to 10 is wild. So that's where like it's kind of messed everything up. But I do agree with you on the Leddy point where it's like he is definitely the most Nashville defenseman in this, maybe just close to Ryan Ellis. Really, like Ryan Ellis and him are the most Nashville defensemen in here.
And I mean, again, part of it with Leddy is the fact that he's had a really good career. Well, not career. He's had a really good last few seasons with the Islanders.
Last season wasn't too good, but I mean, he's still came out there and was pretty good, like offensively, which is really all they needed. They had enough defensemen defensively who could take care of the slack that he was given.
He's had 1, 2, 3. He's had 3 seasons with 40+ points. For the most part, he's healthy. Like he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of like 80 games or equivalent. 8 years of like 80 games or equivalent or more. Dude's healthy. You'll get maybe 30 points, 35 points out of him. He plays 20 minutes, 21 minutes a night. Really good defenseman. Top 4 guy wherever he's gone. He would be a top 4 guy for Nashville.
That's a good pick. Like obviously, like I had Ekholm there just because I don't know, just the way I had my draft going. I had Ekholm there, but it also again like Ekholm, Ellis, Leddy. They're not. I guess Ekholm right now is probably the best out of those 3, alongside Ellis, and then Leddy's third. But I don't know. Leddy's a good pick there too. Leddy and Ekholm having a good lefty guy there at defense, top 4 guys, pretty good. On to the top 10, the great top 10 of this draft. Edmonton Oilers, number 10, 10th overall pick. I'm pretty sure it's Pajärvi. Let me just double check. Magnus Pajärvi, 467 career NHL games, 62 goals, 62 assists, 124 points.
Was it Pajärvi or was it Linus Ullmark who
the spin
at center ice?
That was Ullmark. That was a wild. That was the Jeremy Lin of like the NBA. That like.
And it just pissed off every boomer ever.
Oh, I know. That's where I really do. I'm happy that he did that too, and it's worked. Just so like that kind of like it's like modernizing this like really boomerish game, which I kind of liked. I really did like that he did that move because he was obviously already like a sensation on YouTube with the Datsuk flick, original Datsuk flick, I guess. Yeah. He did in Sweden. But yeah, so 10th overall, Pajärvi didn't work. I'm actually surprised he even played near 500 games. He played 467 games. I thought he only had like 200, 300, but
the Oilers, I remember. He was with the Oilers and the Blues.
The Blues, and then he had a little stint with the Senators. I remember because there's that clip of him celebrating and he like ate shit when he scored. That was a few years back. It was like a weird meme. But yeah, 10th overall. I have Mike Hoffman. Hoffman, 10th overall. Again, Edmonton sucked bad. I think next season, obviously, they were even worse. Last in goals against, almost last in goals for in the next season, in the 2010 season. Ethan Morrow was captaining their team. Pancakes was their leading scorer the next year. 32 goals, 31 assists. Gagne, Gilbert Brûlé, 37 points is their top 3 scorers. Dustin Penner had 63 points. Yeah, he's the leading scorer, Pancakes boy. But yeah.
And the best part, I was going to say, the best part about Hoffman is that another winger.
Yeah.
He will add to their future collection of wingers with Hall, Yakupov.
Hey, they have a good center core the next season, obviously, because they have a young Sam Gagner, 20 years old, young Gilbert Brûlé, Sean Horkoff, good third line center there, and then you got like Patrick O'Sullivan, 24. Obviously you got like at that point you have like these young centers who like you don't know what's going to happen with them, so you want to get some decent young wingers around them. Dustin Penner's there. I guess they're veteran there. But yeah, I think Mike Hoffman works just because they need scoring. Dustin Penner's their leading scorer in points, 63. That's drop off to Gagne, and the 32 goals he has. Next up is 17 Brûlé. But yeah, they just need a goal scoring. I think that one for me was obvious. I don't know what you had, but I just think they need a goal scorer.
10, I had Braden Shen.
Yeah, so I guess that also works just because I guess in hindsight that works. I don't know if you're looking at their team like at that time, they have centers, young centers that I guess they're looking for. So I don't know if that would have worked then, but especially if looking at it now, I think that would have been probably a good pick too. But Mike Hoffman is who I have for the pure reason of they needed goals.
Number 9, It's the Ottawa
Ottawa.
Senators. And who I have at number 9. I feel like with this format, we're going to miss some people, but that's okay.
No, I've been trying to keep track of what you have, so it shouldn't be
I've
too
been trying
bad.
to keep track of what you have too.
Yeah.
9, I have Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Oh, you have him much lower than I did.
I have Larsson low to Ottawa. The problem is that I have I have Larsson. The last few years in Arizona have really fallen off these last.
But people really forget how good he was in his prime, though. That's why.
He was that's just it. I don't know. I'm gonna search here when Ekman-Larsson's peak was, because he was really good, and actually 6 is probably about right for him with where he got drafted.
Yeah, I have him in that range. That's where I have him.
But peak Ekman-Larsson is 2015-16. And he had 55 points in 75 games.
Now, so you have him in Ottawa, right? So imagine, so you have prime Erik Karlsson, one of the best offensive defensemen, you could argue ever at this point. The guy's probably top 5, top 10, if not top 3. And then you have Ekman-Larsson beside him. That does he we always joke about the what's the worst defensive line, Hughes and this guy or whatever, but if you have those two guys in their prime, I don't think it even matters. They could be the most biggest liability on defense, which they weren't at that time. But if they could have been that. Well, they probably would have got 90 points each.
Well, who did Ottawa originally take?
Jared Cowan. So
they take OEL, and OEL gets him to a Stanley Cup final.
OEL get a Stanley Cup final anyways. Don't worry.
OEL probably doesn't get to a Stanley Cup final with the Senators because
I don't know. Yeah, again, I don't think OEL may have. Anyone could have been the difference in Game 7 in 20.
And that Senators team was so bad. I don't think people.
No, that was I wouldn't consider. No, that was a fluke. I think it really was a fluke if you think about it. But
I don't think people realize
it would have been nice to see them in the finals, even though I still think they. I don't know if they get wiped by who are they playing? San Jose is who they're going to play. I think the Sharks is who they're going to play. Is that the year Sharks?
I think
Predators?
I think it was
the
Predators.
Nashville. Yeah, Nashville. So I don't. I think they would have got wiped by Nashville.
They would have got swept.
That's my thought process. Yeah, I don't know if swept, but they would have 1 or 2, but they would have lost to Nashville for sure.
I don't think people realize how truly bad that Sens team was that almost got to the Stanley Cup Finals, which I think has been an absolute disaster for the NHL if Ottawa actually makes it to the finals against Nashville.
Oh yeah, for sure. They only really it really was just Erik Karlsson he could really promote there.
Erik Karlsson and Craig Anderson was hot. You could promote the hot goalie. That was about the only other thing I think on that team.
Yeah,
really promote. So I have OEL Ekman-Larsson, current Vancouver Canuck going 9th to the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah. At 9th, I guess we should say who we had, but your pick will be the 9th. I had Ellis, so defenseman. It was just defense. They just needed defense there, and because Cowan didn't work. Spokane, was he a Spokane Chief? Yeah, he was. Jared Cowan, former Spokane.
He was a part of their he was a part of their 2008 Memorial Cup champion team. Jared Cowan, the Chiefs won the 2008 Memorial Cup in Kitchener, and Spokane won. And they broke the trophy.
Wow, they actually broke the trophy, huh?
They broke the trophy on the ice. They got the shit boot out of them because they broke the trophy in Kitchener. Aww. They beat Kitchener and they broke the trophy on the ice. I want to see if I can pull that up.
Oh my gosh. I guess speaking of Jared Cowan, 249 NHL games. That's nothing. Speaking of nothing though, Scott Glennie, 1 NHL game. That's near nothing. No points, 2 penalty minutes. He was the 8th overall pick that year for the Dallas Stars. That's bad. That's obviously probably the biggest bust in this draft by far. He's really the only one. I guess Philip Paradis at 27th. Glennie is Scott Glennie. He only played 1 game.
Yeah. Glenny's the biggest bust in this draft, I think. Yeah,
Sorry, you cut out.
No, Glenny is the biggest bust in this draft, without a doubt. Hold on.
Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, Scott Glenny, ultimate bust in this draft, without a doubt. He played one game.
Yeah, 2 penalty minutes. Originally, in my draft, I had Nazem Kadri there. Okay. I didn't think Ryan Ellis would have fit just because of they already had Roby Dawes and a young Matt Niskanen. So I don't know if
do we have
another right-handed guy there?
Do we have the same pick here?
Left-handed guy. I guess have we gone with Ekholm yet?
No, that's the same guy I had here.
Ekholm. I think Ekholm will be my pick there. Mattias Ekholm, just because they did have 2 guys on the right. They had Roby Daw, who had a good season next year, I'm pretty sure, or the year before. I forgot. He had a 41-point season, and he's obviously a really good defensive guy. And then you got young Matt Niskanen in there. I'm trying to think of it like their thought process at that time with knowing how the future is going to be like the players in the draft. But yeah, I think Ekholm would be a good guy there left, to have him alongside Roby Dawes, a guy who's a bit much more offensive than Roby Dawes was, even though he still had 40 points in his best season. I think to have those 2 as your top pair, him and Niskanen, him and Roby Dawes, I think Ekholm would be a good fit there.
We talked about Nashville having really good defensemen.
And Ekholm was probably honestly this season like him and Yossi. Yossi even didn't really have the Norris caliber season he had the year before, or even just a few years before that. But I think Ekholm honestly was the most steady defenseman last year for Nashville. So that shows how 10 years later, 11, 12 years later, he's still pretty good.
Well, I was going to say about the Stars is the Stars have been drafting really well defensively. They got, Klinberg, they got Esa Lindell, they got Heiskanen. And if they pick Ekholm over Glenny, that starts their run of drafting really quality defense.
Oh yeah, that's to have that as your top 4, they're arguably the top defensive cores in the league. And now you got him obviously losing. I don't know if they had Alexiak this year. Or was he still Pittsburgh?
He played for
Alexiak was pretty good with them too. Obviously, that's why Seattle took him. But yeah, I think Ekholm would have been a good pick there too. Yeah, again, originally I had Nazem Kadri just for the fact that I guess I'll give you my thought process on that too pretty quick. Just Nazem Kadri, they needed a center because Brad Richards was up the next year, and obviously we know he wasn't going to stay because no one's giving up that money he got in New York. So yeah, they needed Kadri's a good young player, and I think he would have ended up being a good 50, 60 point guy there, second line, just how he is now. I don't think he would have became something much more there. He's playing alongside Louis Eriksson. And so obviously, you know our thought process on that one.
You're the only one who brings up Eriksson on the pod. I don't know if I bring it as much as you do.
Canucks fans. I
have the 7th pick, and Toronto.
Oh, by the way, who did you have for 8th? By the way, sorry.
I had Ekholm.
That's good then. I guess we agree on that one.
We were agreeing the same there. So 7th, this is my pick. Toronto. I had Tyson Barrie going to the Leafs. Just because
again, there you go. I know I was talking about how the Norris, he should have gotten Norris vote, but then I do the same thing where I bring him down lower because he's a liability defensively. So there you go. I thought I contradict myself there, but yeah.
I just think Tyson Barrie, I mean, I don't need to say I wonder what Tyson Barrie and Morgan Riley on the same team would look like, because we kind of know how that looks.
So have we gone with Ryan Ellis yet? I don't think
we haven't gone.
Yeah, I guess right-hand defenseman Barrie, Ellis fits there. I guess Ellis will be the guy, right? Or unless you have something else up your sleeve.
Do you want to go with Vander Kane?
He may have been my 7th pick.
Was he actually your
7th? Should I show you my screen?
All right. Well, Rab's not even screen sharing. This is just me.
I'm on my phone doing it. That's why.
Evander Kane, I had 11th to Nashville originally.
Are you gonna go with him?
Yeah, we'll go with Evander Kane.
Yeah, so I guess we can both talk on it for that reason. You go first, though.
Okay, so you talk about Evander Kane. Why do you like Evander Kane?
Toronto. That's just something they would do. They would take the guy who would get them the most. I mean, also it's all over the place. Where Brian Burke probably doesn't like him, but you also got to just take the guy.
Why? Because he takes too many penalties. Is that why, Brian?
Oh, just everything about his play style. Every single thing about that guy's play style does not scream Brian Burke. Even I guess the grittiness and all that does. I shouldn't say that, but just everything else.
I was definitely just assuming racism.
That I wasn't trying to say that, but I knew that's what you're trying to allude to.
That's what I was trying to push, and you're like, no, let's not bring up the card.
Their preseason odds the next season to win this cup was plus 6,600. 26th in goals for. Sorry,
the Sharks.
Probably both. Leafs in 2010. Leafs in 2010. And probably Sharks now. Ron Wilson was the head coach. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I just feel like they would have just taken Evander Kane. That's my thought process. There's nothing else. Almost they're 29th in goals against, 26th in goals for. And obviously they got Kessel the next season for the goal scoring. I think it was that offseason they got Kessel. 55 points, 70 games, he had 30 goals. But, again, like if you have Evander Kane alongside of I guess Matt Stajan or Grabowski was their center, but to have Kane instead of Ponikarovsky is a big upgrade. And to have a guy like Kane,
Ponikarovsky have like one really good year, and then they put him on Team Ukraine. He was like the only guy who wasn't like it
was him and Fedotenko.
Yeah, who like weren't players on like the NHL video games, who weren't made up players. It was like Fedotenko and Alexei Ponikarovsky were like the two actual.
It's like Antropov with Kazakhstan too. I guess I'll talk about Antropov later once we get to the fourth pick. But yeah, I guess Antropov also did play in Toronto. Ponikarovsky did have a good few seasons there, 61 points the year like 2008-9, and then 2009-10. He also had a good season too.
So Evander has had a really good year this last year. Like very little penalty.
Yeah, considering all things all things considered too, like considering everything he's going through, like not to make him look like the victim with all the things. I'm not going to talk about that just because like we don't know everything about all the stories, but considering he filed for bankruptcy and then he comes out and does that is pretty good.
He's also played so he started his career with the Atlanta Thrashers, and then he's a part of the move to Winnipeg.
The Jets for a bit.
He's on the Jets for a bit, and he's like, I don't want to say he kind of flames out with the Jets, but it doesn't work in Winnipeg.
Yeah, it doesn't work, right?
It doesn't really work. The Jets kind of like they give him 4 years and then they move on. He's in Buffalo, and the Sabres are the Sabres. And then he's with the Sharks. I think he was a part of a trade deadline acquisition with the Sharks. And then the Sharks just fall apart. Like the Sharks, which I don't want to say like he's part of the reason why the Sharks are not good because he's like got a bunch of money tied up to him, but like. I don't know. He's not going 10th for me, like in the top 10. He's not going in the top 10 for me in this redraft, but we'll have him go to Toronto 7th. He could be a winger.
Did you have him in 20?
Yeah, I have him 11th. I had him 11th to Nashville.
Yeah, 11th. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, but I had him top 10 just because that's just a Toronto pick. They would pick a guy like that. It does work in the sense where that like, you have Grabowski and Kessel, these like pure offensive guys, and you have Kane who can, like stand up for him. And it's just kind of like on paper that looks decent enough. And like considering what they were at that stage and that team, I don't think that's a bad pick at all.
Can I just say
it's just a Toronto pick where you get this guy who's
Can I just say, speaking of the Leafs at this time, do you know who the coach of Team USA was at the 2010 Winter Olympics?
Was it Ron Wilson?
It was. And if the U.S. scores and wins the game in overtime and Canada loses, that's like such a fucking mind fuck for people to think that Ron Wilson could beat Mike Babcock, who Mike Babcock eventually down the line, becomes the next Leafs head.
Yeah.
Where Ron Wilson beats Mike Babcock for a gold medal in the Olympics, I think that would have just been like I liked Ron Wilson. I would have loved him so like he probably would have been the first guest on this podcast if he wins gold in Vancouver in 2010.
Obviously that didn't happen. So
and then he probably well, then he also gets a 5-year extension, probably too, from Brian Burke.
My God. Let's just move to. We can move to Phoenix. We
all want to move to Phoenix in a way.
I mean, it's obviously nice. It's a nice place for a bit until it turns to like 50 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, until it becomes unlivable in the summertime.
Yeah. At 6th overall, I had Braden Shen. I don't know if we've taken him.
Ooh.
Have we taken Braden Shen?
I don't think we have yet. No.
Because I remember.
Wow, that is higher than I had him.
I think it was like 10th or 12th. I think you had Braden Shen, right?
I had Shen 10th to Edmonton.
10th, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The past few years, I've really turned. I don't want to say a Braden Shen fan of some sort, but like he's turned my head where it's like the guy is actually a really good player. My thought process for this was 2009-10 Phoenix. I guess the year prior is pull up that like in the year before the draft. Oh my gosh, hockey reference by the way. Thank you. I mean, you gave me an ad, but you saved my life as well. 09-10 season, they had the year after that draft, they had a really good season. They won 50 games, and I think they lost to Detroit in Game 7 for all which playoff round that was, but I think it was probably first round knowing it's Phoenix.
I think that was the first round, and then I think it was the year after the one that the Kings went to the finals. Arizona was in the conference final. Well, Phoenix was in the conference finals, and they were doing whiteouts, and that was like Shane Doan's best kick at the can for a
yeah,
and it didn't work out.
Yeah, so 29-10 season, really 50 wins, but there's no let me pull up. Come on.
OEL is their best defenseman during those runs.
Oh yeah, OEL was like their best.
OEL and Keith Yandel.
Yeah, Yandel too. But so yeah, my thought process there, they have a good defensive core. They still have Jovanovski, who's still pretty good, and Yandel. You got Adrian Aucoin too. Still, he's on his last leg, but he's still there. Zabanik McCulloch, 27 there too. There's a few guys there that like Derek Morris was a good defensive defenseman for a bit, and that he was kind of just there where he was playing hockey, and that people thought he was good, but he wasn't really. So yeah, 2010 season, they had a good season. Third in goals against, 15 goals for. Braden Shen, I think, just fit in with that team style play. That's just what it is to me. No one on that team even had 60 points and 55 Shane Doan, and they're second division, won 50 games, 107 points. It also helps that Gretzky wasn't the coach and it was Tippett. But
that's why Tippett has his job now with Edmonton.
Yeah.
Because of all he did in Arizona. And then when it didn't work out in Arizona, he just got the job in Edmonton. The other mention, I don't know where he is right now. I'm going to search up where he is. But Don Maloney, who was the GM of the team at the time, there's a couple of good years of draft classes with the Coyotes and good like Mike Smith. Mike Smith is on the
obviously what's his name? Fucking Chaika. That kind of ruined it.
For him.
For that piece of shit. But I think to add Braden Shen to a lineup like that, he kind of plays like that Matthew Lombardi role, which this season where he had 50 points, 78 games, 27 years old. I think he could have turned out to be that player for Phoenix later down the line when inevitably, I guess Martin Hansel leaves down the line too. And Shane Doan is 33 at this point. And you don't know how long he's got. So you have a guy like Braden Shen come in there who can I don't know if it's really, you can't really place Shane Doan like that. You know what I mean? You can't replace a captain, but he can be the next guy up kind of thing. And I think Braden Shen could have been that. I obviously rate him much higher than you did, but I think he just fit in perfectly with their style of play. He's a Phoenix Coyote, not an Arizona type player now, but he's a Phoenix Coyote type player at that time.
Well, and he reminded me of Darcy Kemper. They kind of have this sort of career type thing where it's it feels a bit slow. You have to be really patient with Braden Shen. You got to be patient with him. And now all of a sudden, with St. Louis and Philadelphia, gonna really started to take off for him. and
Yeah,
he
and
really
then
started to become the player who we thought he could, but he had to wait like 7, 8 years.
yeah, we waited a while, but I mean, obviously he was worth the wait. He was part of the Stanley Cup winning team in 2019, and
Yeah,
they don't win that cup without him, really, if we're
no,
being
and
honest.
that's just it. Like you have to be really patient with him. And I don't know how many teams have. I don't know if the Coyotes they might because they're supposed to be a good team. They might be patient with him.
Yeah,
But I don't know how many teams are patient. Same thing
yeah,
with Kemper. Same thing with Shen. I don't know how many guys are patient with them.
yeah.
In the
So
NHL.
again, I guess to just finish off my point there, my thought process, just they had enough defense, and like Braden Shen was good defensively, and he brings goal scoring and just good offensive. He's a decent offensive talent there. Paul Bissonnette played 41 games that season. Brizgal, that was Brizgal's best season. It was either that or the next season after. LeBarbro was a good backup too. I think that was the year he left the Canucks. He was at Canucks previous season, and then he went to, or one of the other way around. I forgot. He may have went to the Canucks after Phoenix, but he also is a good backup. So they had a good goalie tandem there going too. So the goal score, the defensive wise is good for them. So I guess that Braden Shen wouldn't hurt.
Ryan Ellis, I have 6 to Phoenix.
Yeah, again, that's also a good one too.
So I because I figured like Ellis can just be like there basically
Better than Derek Morris.
Well, Ellis, you're essentially like they take OEL. The Coyotes take OEL 6 at this time. So you're basically just trading offensive defensemen for really good more back end support than what OEL gives you.
Exactly. I think both picks were obviously I think OEL worked for them, so they're not complaining about that.
Okay, number 5. This is the LA Kings who did they take at the time?
Braden Shen.
They took Braden Shen at the time. You see, like Braden Shen was originally drafted a King.
Yeah. So you picked So who'd you have for LA?
Matt Duchene.
You have a bit lower than I did.
Okay. So Matt Duchene. The problem with Matt Duchene, it's the contract thing in Nashville now.
Yeah.
Where like, man, like so good in Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, on paper, he's also good in Ottawa too. Like he wasn't necessarily bad in Ottawa. He had his career year there. Like on paper, like he had 90. I think he had 90-ish points.
The Ottawa thing to me though was like, I don't want to say it was a failure because it wasn't a failure, but like,
I mean, obviously, I think Ottawa's mind was like, oh my God, we're a Stanley Cup contending team. But it's like,
no, you're not. You're not Senators. Like, yeah.
Because like, oh my God, we're one goal away from going to the finals. And then, like, let's re-up, let's run it back turbo. And then we get Duchene. And obviously that doesn't work. And you have to keep for another season where he has a good year. And then you off him, which worked out for them, I guess, in the end. But
so Duchene was traded to Ottawa. So hold on. So the Avalanche acquired Samuel Girard, Vladislav Kamenev, and a second-round pick in 2018 from the Predators, as well as Andrew Hammond, Shane Bowers, and first and third picks in 2018 from the Senators.
I think it was Byron.
And the Predators acquired Kyle Turris.
Yeah.
And that's for Duchene. And like Ottawa really screws the pooch. I think,
dude.
With that deal. And I mean, they were fortunate to get 2 first-round picks back from Columbus.
Oh yeah, that really did help them. Like it got to soften the blow, but I mean, still, it was a rough time there. But that doesn't put off to the side what he did. Like Matt Duchene did in his prime. That guy was a really good hockey player, and I guess in LA, I think he would have fitted fine. My draft was like 5-6 as I'd switch. I had OEL 5th, and I had 6 Braden Shen.
Okay.
But I understand why you went with him there, though.
Duchene, it's again tough with the Avs, where they really they're going through some things at the time they trade him, which at the time I get why you trade him, but I also don't know why you couldn't be patient if you're Duchesne on one hand. Like, this team's good. You've been to the playoffs with this team. I don't know why you can't be patient and wait it out a little bit, because now every day, anytime you're not good one day, like, then you want to get moved to a team that is good. Well,
yeah.
Okay. I don't know if he was ever the top, like it was never Crosby. He was never Tate.
Oh no. He was never like, I think he was an all-star player, like at his prime for sure. Like not even a doubt. But he was never like your like a franchise player is what you're trying to say, I guess, right? Like he's not a Crosby, Taves, McKinnon.
I don't know if you can build your team around him, because we're seeing what Nashville's doing with Duchesne and Turris.
Yeah.
And not even Turris isn't even there anymore.
And he's not really, I don't know. He probably has to just, I don't know if he got bought out this year.
Last year.
Did he get bought out?
Last year. He was with Edmonton last year.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see much for him in the future, but I mean, he had a good career too, even if he doesn't have another game in the NHL. But again, Duchesne I think he would have helped the LA Kings in the playoff runs. But again, I guess, I don't know, if you draft Duchesne, does it change the course of their team? Do they wait a bit longer? They don't go all out. They don't get, you don't get Gaborik. Gaborik doesn't help you. Gaborik doesn't get 20 points in the playoffs. You don't make it to the finals against the Devils. So I don't know. I know. Oh, fuck, I've mixed up the finals now, but Gaborik doesn't help you win the finals. I forgot what year it was he got there, but yeah, like, it could.
Well, I was gonna say, does Matt Duchesne help you? Was it sweep or 5 games the Canucks in the first round in 2012?
Stop. Oh, you won the President's Trophy, dude. You could have went back to the finals. Nope. Fuck that. We're not going to do that.
8th seed Kings are like, we'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah, and then they end up winning the cup as 8th seed, which the Habs, I mean, they weren't really going to do this year, were they, against Tampa?
No.
That's a good pick. I had OEL. Yeah, I mean, that's a good pick.
I
guess
that's why, yeah, Duchesne. I like how, I think Duchesne is a top 5 player in this redraft. It's just the Ottawa thing doesn't help him, but then he's also maybe redeemed when he goes to Columbus and they sweep the Bolts in the first round with that.
Yeah, right. Like,
so like
I think
it might be a wash with Duchesne in his career trajectory.
Yeah. Atlanta 4th overall.
Yeah, Thrashers.
Wow, this team. So Thrashers.
Not the Trashers.
So I had Matt Duchesne there.
Not the Trashers, the Thrashers.
Sorry? Not the Trashers. I had Matt Duchesne there just because I don't see Antropov working out for, like, he had 67 points, but come on, man. You're playing, I guess he played against Kovalchuk, who didn't even play, like, Kovalchuk had 10, like, he was over point per game, only played 49 games, and then 76 games, 67 points. Antropov's up next. Like, it's really just Kovalchuk kind of, Antropov's a good player. He's not a first line player. So, I mean, if you put, in my opinion, you put Duchesne there, it would have helped. I guess I think the obvious pick there would be OEL, which also I don't think it doesn't hurt too much. They have a few defensive guys there that, like, are pretty decent defensively. Hainsey, for obviously, you got Bogosian too, like a young Bogosian who just got picked top 5 in the draft previously. I think 3rd probably. I think that's what it was. A top, at this young Bogosian who's got to come in there. You got OEL and Bogosian there. You got Enstrom. You got Hainsey. That's a good top 4. Like, that's a pretty good top 4 in hindsight. Obviously, if Bogosian works out, but like back then, if you're thinking about it, and you got Johnny Aduya, right? So I see them taking OEL in that position, I guess.
Okay.
Obviously, I think you had him much, much lower than I did. I had him originally at 5th anyway, so I still had him higher than, like, his actual original spot, just because I did take into account how good he was in his prime.
So OEL, I think this is one of the thing with the Thrashers is the fact that they are moving. Like, they aren't going to stay in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because Kovalchuk and Heatley are the two biggest stars maybe that have ever played for this team.
Yeah.
And when you're picking, was it fourth
Overall.
Fourth overall, you're looking for a star.
Again, that's just I know where you're gonna go with it.
And I don't you're not going to get a star in this draft at the fourth, unless you're really patient. But by the time the guys at 4 really pan out, you think they are, maybe Duchesne, maybe OEL. I just think by the time those guys actually pan out, you're already out the door to Winnipeg.
Yeah. Again, I think the main thing that really did kill Atlanta was the drafting. That their drafting was absolute garbage. They really never drafted a good player besides Kovalchuk, did they? Besides Kovalchuk, it was really not much in there.
Yeah, it's very underwhelming. The whole Thrashers franchise is underwhelming.
It really was. A lot of it was the owner's fault, obviously. Drafting who they did and not putting enough effort in. They really were focused on the other teams that they owned. Besides, the Thrashers were last resort for them, or last priority.
Well, and that's why they drafted Evander Kane originally.
Yeah, which I also don't think, in hindsight, looking at it now, it's also not even a bad pick. That's actually a pretty decent pick.
It's a solid pick. It's a little bit of a reach, but with Kane, again, you're looking for that star, and you're thinking that this guy.
You can be a great power forward you want from this guy, right? Like a guy you can get, maybe I don't think you can really expect more than, 70, 75 points from a guy who plays that sort of style. But he could have become that, which is a star too. I think you could argue his peak would be near prime Jamie Benn. If that's what they were kind of expecting, that kind of level, I'm assuming, which obviously they expect from every fucking player they draft. They probably expected Bogosian to be a top defensive defenseman, and obviously that didn't fucking work. So I don't know. That's just Atlanta just pissing me off, just because they really just messed up again. Essentially, they messed up the first time with the Flames, and they messed up again with this team.
Well, and what I was trying to get at too is the fact that Evander Kane, when they took him, was a guy who scored a bunch in junior with the Vancouver Giants, won a Memorial Cup, and I think too. 10 years ago, where you people really value trophies.
Yeah.
If you win a Mem Cup, that should mean something. Where now, I guess McKinnon was the last one where it really helped solidify this dude's draft stock, where otherwise.
Yeah. And then again, sorry, finish. I kind of cut you off.
I was gonna say, I don't know if the Mem Cup has really, or being Nick Patan, I think was not. Nick Patan. Yeah, Nick Patan was a really big star for Winterhawks. Scored over 100 points multiple times. And look where Nick Patan is.
Yeah. I mean, you could even just the Mooseheads team again. You just talk about Durand as well. I mean, not to say that he's bad. He's a top 6 guy.
Oh yeah.
But he's not people expected him to be near McKinnon's level.
Yeah.
You expect so I see what it was 10 years ago. Obviously, you see this guy who's won a Memorial Cup, and you want to and he's a tough guy. He can score goals. It's a good pick, and even now I don't mind that pick. That's actually probably one of their best picks in their history. Honestly, probably top 3. I wouldn't be surprised if Evander Kane was probably one of their best picks they've ever had.
Probably top 5, anyways.
Yeah. But yeah, I had Duchesne, but we went OEL, which also to have prime OEL, probably at this point they're going to be in Winnipeg. That's pretty good. And,
so you
have OEL and maybe Bufflin around, if that worked out, if that ever happened afterwards.
So you have OEL 4th.
Yes.
Okay. I went with
he was in. Sorry.
I went with Robin Lehner 4th.
Robin Lehner. I think I had him. We already picked him, did we?
Yeah.
Maybe been the guy we missed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Use the Islanders. Yeah.
So pretty much with my reasoning for taking Lehner was, again, they needed a goalie. I thought they need especially when they moved to Winnipeg, that was the thing that was tough. Who is their goal? Andre Pavlik and Chris Mason were their goalies for a while. And no offense to Pavlik and Chris Mason, but
Yeah, that's also no, that's a good thought process too. Because even I was looking at that as well. I still put Leonard much lower. Not, I still believe today he's like a top 5-10 goalie, but I put him much lower just because I feel like the forwards were much more needed for those teams more than the goalie was. But the reason I never ended up going with a goalie for Atlanta was just because they did have Pavlik. He was only 22 years old, and at that time you might just be like, you know, you don't know much. Like, he played
Oh, no,
42 games and he had a 906, and as a 22-year-old, that's not bad considering who you're playing it. Like, Boris Valbeek is one of your defensemen, so
yeah,
there you go, right?
You're being patient
But
with Pavlik.
Hedberg, I see why. Like, sorry,
You're being patient with Pavlik, which is like totally understandable.
yeah, yeah. So that's why I never, like, the Pavlik thing is why I never ended up going with the goalie there. Yeah, originally Duchesne, OEL works too. Like, OEL was either 4, 5, 6 for me. It was one or the other. It was kind of like all over the place there. I just kind of try to see what the team needed.
Can I just say, Robin Lehner has the fourth most point shares from this draft class behind OEL.
Sorry.
Lehner has the fourth most point shares in this draft class.
Sorry, I didn't hear anything.
Lehner has the fourth most point shares in this draft class behind OEL.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think, yeah. I think Leonard probably, like, overall is probably like a top, like, 5-10 player in this draft. I just believe the goalies weren't the main thing that the team needed at this point.
Sure.
I'm just looking at what the team's outlook was at this point, and I just feel like, yeah, I just think that Leonard would have been much lower. Like, teams like, because I think like Kadri, like, they still let in there in Dallas when that was my redraft there, and then I don't know. I guess the Oilers, they had some bullshit going on, but they had Habby.
Oh, the Oilers could always use a fucking goalie. They need a goalie now.
But then, like, you bring in Habby Bullen and you think, oh, he's this good player.
Khabibulin will fix it.
Yeah, but yeah, that didn't work. But yeah, that's who I had for fourth there. OEL.
This is my pick, number 3.
Yes, Colorado originally took Matt Duchene.
I think we should have, I think, like, I think we know who the top 3 in this draft are.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious here, I think.
So number 3, I have Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, same.
Led the Blues to the 2019 Stanley Cup. Was the Conn Smythe winner. I think almost the Blues fans should be almost thankful that it's O'Reilly and not Jordan Binnington.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, that's a good Matt Duchene was originally there. O'Reilly, same guy I had, one of the best defensive forwards in the league, even still, and he's done so much. He did so much for St. Louis, and he continues to play at, like, an elite level. And I wouldn't be surprised. He should be on the fourth line for Canada. I'd say the Olympics next year.
Probably. I mean, with O'Reilly too. The other thing, again, he starts out in Buffalo. Like, isn't him and Leonard on the same team?
Yeah, I think they're on the same team at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that the Sabres couldn't fucking put it together with like two of 5 players in this redraft for me, 2 of 10 players in this redraft for you.
Yeah.
And the Sabres, you have to.
I mean, that's just a lot of teams in this league. There's some teams that can't do it. Edmonton is the biggest example. They just have top pick after top pick after top pick, and then you can't do anything with it. You get the best player in hockey in like in so long, and like you could argue since literally like Crosby prime, since like all this stuff. You get like the best hockey player in the world, and you still can't do it. You can't even win a game against Winnipeg.
So I should say O'Reilly was with Colorado to start his career.
Yeah. So again, like, it worked out, and I guess with that as well.
With the Avs, he then goes to Buffalo. So Riley traded alongside Jamie McGinn to the Sabres for Nikita Zorov, Mikhail Grigorenko, JT Compher, and the 31st pick in the 2015 draft, which turned out to be Jeremy Waugh from Sherbrooke.
Yeah, so obviously that trade didn't work out for them too well. I mean, they got JT Compher, who's still on the team still to this day.
So yeah, that didn't go well for the Avs. He then signed a 7-year extension with Buffalo. So that didn't really go well. But then O'Reilly was traded to the Blues in exchange for Tage Thompson, Vladimir Sobotka, Patrick Berglund.
No games. He left.
A 2019 first-round pick and a 2022 second-round pick on July 1st, 2018.
Who's the 2019 pick? Do you know?
I'm just searching that up now. 2019.
But yeah, so like Berglund retired the next season really early into his career. Not like early, he was in his 30s, but like he retired much earlier than he needed to. I think he cited I forgot the reason. It wasn't mental issues. I think it's just his love for the game or something. Where he went back home and played, and then Sobotka he left after the season ended.
That pick, the first round pick in 2019, that was after the Blues who won the Cup.
Yeah, so
31st pick in the first round, and that was the Sabres used to take Ryan Johnson, who's now playing for the University of Minnesota.
What's his stats like? What are you looking like?
He had 14 points in 26 games with the Golden Gophers this year. He was on the he was on the World Juniors team this year for Team
USA. So that's why I think he could become a good like I think his peak's like a second line player there, second, third line. He'll definitely get his time, especially in Buffalo. They might as well just play him this year at this point.
I guess my point is with O'Reilly, really be patient with him because this guy is a selkie dude pretty much every year.
Yeah, he'll be selkie dude probably for like the remainder of his like prime, in probably going out of his prime, like on his little downward trek. I still imagine he's gonna be like top 10 voting until he retires. At this point, the guy, him and Bergeron are like the pinnacle of like defensive forwards right now. Yeah. I think like probably like the Mount Rushmore of Selke winners is like Datsuk, Bergeron, O'Reilly. Then probably put one more guy in there.
Taves.
That's it. Like I guess for like this like 2000s beyond. I shouldn't because I don't know about before, but like 2000 beyond, that's the road
for the last decade.
Yeah, even Datsuk. Like when Datsuk left, he was still probably
he's been kicking ass in Russia for like the last
he's like 42 now. Like he might even make the Olympic team. That guy's good, and especially because they're like they won't have Kuznetsov to the Coke stuff, and like I don't know about Panarin considering all those political issues he's had. But yeah, he might even make the team.
So. O'Reilly third to Colorado?
Yeah.
So yeah, he stays with Colorado. Yeah.
Yeah.
Colorado in this fucking draft gets Matt Duchene third overall, and then Ryan O'Reilly 33rd overall, and then Tyson Barrie 64th overall. Like
hold it. I mean, hey, it worked out, and then we're like now there's now like a contender 10 years down the line, but even like I could say like 6, even 7, 8 years down the line, there were still like a contenders a few years back too, arguably. But
like when you draft players, like sure you want all your picks to turn out well, but
it never happens like that. Really,
it never happens like that. Like you're hoping for like 2 or 3 guys who can become NHLers.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why I always like I always say this. I feel like every podcast now. The only thing I have of Benning that I like is the guy can draft like that core. Like obviously it's like it's the scouting guys, but Benning's team that he's put there has drafted amazingly. We always get like we got Rathbone. I think Yanni Yermo might be a pretty good guy. We got last year, the year prior in the 3rd round. So like we get all these guys that like on like they look like they're good. Like Rathbone might be a defenseman who plays this year. Yermo's been looking good where he's playing. I that's one thing with the Canucks that I always thought we needed, and we got that with Benning. Virtanen, I don't give him shit for that because he kind of just got thrown in for that. But after that, he did good.
Okay.
Number 2.
You have number 2. This is the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Number 2, Tampa Bay Lightning select Victor Hedman from Modo Hockey in the Swedish Elite League. I take him too. I think that one hasn't changed for me. 518 points, 860.
You have him. You have him second.
I have Hedman second overall. My thought process, like I guess, do we talk about the number one pick now? I guess we
So let's talk about the number one pick, okay?
Yeah. So number one, do you have John Tavares there, or you have Hedman?
I have Edmund.
You have Hedman. Ooh. The reason I put Victor Hedman at second, my thought process was still Islanders. They want a franchise center. They don't want a defenseman because they obviously in that time they had the pick of who they want, who they wanted.
Do you want your franchise centerman or do you want your franchise defenseman? What do you want?
Yeah, and they went with the franchise centerman, and I mean they never really went far in the playoffs until now when he left, obviously, which is weird. But I'm thinking about it at the time, like, yeah, you got to take Tavares. Like, even now, I still think, like, I think if they do things differently around Tavares, it works out. That's their problem. Like, Matt Molson, I know he had a good time there. He can't be the guy there, though. You can't have guys like that. Okposo. You got to have like
Barento.
Oh, that one's a rough one because he.
P.A. Barento was actually good for like.
Oh yeah, he was good, but like again, you need. McKinnon has Rantanen, right? Like McKinnon has Rantanen. Crosby has Gensel. Tavares has Parento. Like, he's good, but come on, right? Like, you know what I mean? You kind of understand what I'm trying to get at there. So that's why I went with Tavares at first, and then you had Hedman at first. I see why you'd want to go there. I just feel that Islanders needed that, and in Tampa, they still have Vinny. I don't know if they've got Stamkos yet. I think they've drafted Stamkos by now. He's probably playing at this point.
He was drafted the year before, wasn't he?
Yeah. So yeah. Oh wait, yeah. So you got Vinny still's good. Like, he's still pretty decent. And you got Stamkos. I don't know if Tavares fits in with that. They needed that Hedman guy because I don't know who else they even had on defense there. Like, they got Oland a few years later, but I don't know.
See, I just go. I think my draft strategy, if I was a GM, would be take the best player available.
That which is also it works out in a lot of cases, but it also you never know. Like, yeah.
And I was gonna say, like, I think Hedman is a better player than Tavares.
I guess, yeah, now. I guess, like, if I see what you're trying to get at there, yeah. Hedman probably is the best player in this draft for sure. But you kind of understand my thought process of
I think, like, if you're like team building, you would probably be a better GM than myself because you're team building better instead of just like take the best player available.
No, if it's best player available, it's Victor Hedman by far. So I understand why you go with number one. And again, if you take Victor Hedman with the Islanders, like, imagine Victor Hedman on that team now with that core. If they manage to keep all those guys this year, that's the best defensive core, arguably of the generation, that defensive core.
Well, the thing too is that with Hedman, it's like there's like he's like career high 72 points in 79 games in 16-17, 70 points as a defenseman. Like,
and he's like top 5 like defensively too. It's not like he's bad defensively, which is what that's like that was like Adam Fox like last season, where like a lot of people thought like, oh, he's good offensively, but he's bad defensively, even though he is actually one of the best defensively too.
Underlying stats will tell you that Adam Fox is actually a really good defender, but
sorry.
Underlying stats will actually tell you that Adam Fox is really good defensively if only you want to pay attention. But no, just keep saying that he's,
and same with Same with like Makar and like literally every like the reason like you like I hate I think it's like the Barry effect is what I could call it, where it's just like, oh, he's good offensively, he probably sucks defensively, but that's not always the case. I guess Christian Ehrhoff's one case where like you could say that too. Like, he wasn't bad defensively, but he could have been a liability when he was on the Canucks, right? So there's a lot of cases of that. I just think that Hedman was a good fit for Tampa and JT Islanders. Like, if they don't give him Molson and Okposo, again, no disrespect to those guys. They were great hockey players, but
P.A. Parento.
I don't know. P.A. Parento, dude. You got Anders Lee, Tavares, Barzal, like, earlier, and you have a better team around him, then who knows what happens. You have that. Imagine Tavares now with Barzal and you have the same core. Obviously, that just never will happen, just due to like salary cap issues and stuff. I'm just trying to like think about it in a different world.
The thing about JT that he's got going for him, he's just short of a career point per game, like 819 points.
Oh yeah, he's only like 50 points off, and like a lot of it was due to like he comes back from injury and he's like probably not at 100% because he probably comes back to like New York and like they're like, oh, you gotta play. We suck. We need something.
Well, and he's never had a season below 50% Corsi for.
Yeah.
Even on those Islanders teams, like he's always had a 50% or more Corsi.
Yeah, which is all you gotta remember. Like as a rookie to have that is also like as like a young player, like 19 coming into the league and doing that is amazing.
His postseason stats aren't great. He has the one run with the Islanders, and I know this year, like this past season, didn't do well because he got injured in the first game. But
like even sorry, you finished what you're gonna say.
But I mean, he's way over. I think he's way overqualified to be playing the position that he is right now in Toronto.
Oh yeah, he should be he's probably a first line center in like not 80% of teams.
Yeah, like he could be a first line center for quite a number of teams, right?
But yeah, like this season was considered a bad season for him, and he had 50 points in 56 games in a year where like Matthews and Marner like were leading the show. Like Tavares didn't really get a chance, and it was only like later in the year, obviously like Nylander turned it up and like it helped him bring it back too. But yeah, if Tavares was playing the playoffs this year, the Leafs look better, and I don't know if they lose the games they do. And I still blame the Leafs for that all that bullshit because they're like, oh, we have depth this year, and then Galchenyuk comes in, plays good, and then he throws the game for him in game 6 or whatever the game was then, or game 5 when Suzuki and Caulfield had that breakaway. So, you have all this depth and like they should still win with that team against Montreal without Tavares. I know it's a captain and it's a big deal, but yeah, I don't want to get back to the Leafs shitting on again.
And the other thing I want to mention with Hedman, so he's won back-to-back cups. Hedman, even while injured by, I don't know, for most of the year, I think this past year, he hasn't been 100% healthy.
Yeah. And it did suck that it ended the way it did. But I still think he's like, that's like, I always think of this with a lot of players too, where it's like, imagine Tavares put in McKinnon's spot where he's playing alongside Landeskog and Rantanen. Like I always think like he could be like him. Tarasenko always thought like if you put him against like with like Backstrom or someone who's like an elite playmaker, like he had 40 goals a season, with I don't even know who the center was, Braden Shen. Like he's getting near 40 goals with Braden Shen. Yeah, you put prime Vladimir Tarasenko with Backstrom, like I don't know, an Ovechkin, I guess, but maybe that makes it worse. But you put him with like a great playmaker. That's the thing. Even I guess Tavares is more of a sniper, like. He's a bit of both, but I guess Tavares, Tarasenko there, like that's one thing I guess I always thought about players like that. Like if they were like Barzal right now too, like Barzal is getting 100 points on most teams in this league. It's just the way he plays. He kind of only gets 80, he only gets point per game.
I just wanted to mention on Hedman. So Hedman's won the cup back to back.
Yeah.
In 2021, this past playoffs, he averaged 24 or 42 average time on ice.
Yeah.
In 2020, during the bubble, during those playoffs, he averaged 26-28 average time on ice per game.
And he wasn't 100% all year this year.
Yeah.
Just one sec. Victor Hedman is the only NHL player that has a goal in every single month of the year.
Exactly. There you go. That's why.
There you go, and that's why you take him number one.
He scored big goals in July and August. Who else can you have done that?
Yeah,
Ross Colton. I don't think so. He scored in August. Get that shit out of here.
And unless another fucking weird season like this ever happens again, you're never seeing that record get broken. So that's a weird record that only he will hold, probably for the rest of eternity, unless this shit happens again, which probably will, honestly.
Well, global warming will probably be the next thing that fucks us all.
Yeah. Today's Blue Jays game is postponed. Global warming is the reason cited. You get a global warming delay mid-game. It's like 60 degrees.
Forest fires in Barrie are postponing today's Blue Jays game, even though there is
forest fires in Regina. There's no trees around, but every tree is burning. Like the 4 trees we have are burning. All the fields are on fire.
BMO Field does not exist anymore. Sorry, TFC.
We will currently be playing inside. We're going to start playing futsal inside of Air Canada Center or Scotiabank Center. We have switched it to MLF, Major League Futsal.
I'd watch that.
That would be funny.
2009 NHL Draft. So what are your final thoughts after doing this draft? What do you when you look back on this draft, what do you think about the most?
09 draft. What do I think about? Underwhelming. That's what it was to me. All these guys like Glennie, I remember Callan, Pyarvi was meant to Pyarvi, like Edmonton. I guess I always got that. Like I remember watching Canucks game as a kid, like, oh, a new guy, Pyarvi's in. And then obviously that didn't work out. You know, Hall, Eberle, all those guys, at least they like played well, whereas he never really even did much. He was kind of a liability out there. I don't know. There's a lot of guys. Shout out to, I guess we can shout out a few guys who are just barely out of it on the list. Kulikov.
I was gonna say I'm gonna shout out my Everett Silvertips, Cameron Abney, and Byron Fraze.
Kulikov, Kyle Palmieri, who could have easily been in the top like 15.
I had Kyle. Where did I have Palmieri? I had Palmieri 16th.
Yeah, I didn't have him at all. Okay. And that's no disrespect to him. It's just like I think if there's anywhere I could have put him, it may have been in the spot that Silfverberg's in right now. Because I think right now Palmieri is a better player than Silfverberg is. So if I were to switch it, I would have put Silfverberg. I just think that Silfverberg has more potential than him to score more goals. I just think that since he's been playing where he has been, you never really get the full potential of him. Orlov, he's another guy that like he's kind of like a Nick Leddy too, and that you know what I mean. Nick, like Vatanen in his prime too was a really good offensive defenseman, really sought after. Even just a few years back, he's a really sought after defenseman. Cizikas as well, Casey Cizikas. He's another guy who's on the World Junior team. He's like on the fourth line, the best fourth line hockey, and he still will be. But yeah, he's a good player to have. Cody
Eakin. I haven't given up on Cody Eakin yet.
Yeah, I kind of did. That's why I never put him on here. But in his prime, he was a good player. I think ever since the Pavelski thing, it really kind of went downhill, which also wasn't his fault. I don't know if I'll die on that hill, but I'm on that hill where it's like, you know, that's not Eakin's fault.
Eakin, like, he might make the top 30 redrafted. He might.
He would for sure.
He might make top 30 redrafted in this redraft, but he doesn't make the top 20.
Yeah. No, for sure. Prime Vatanen, Orlov too. Like, I mean, he's still in his prime, arguably, but like those guys are pretty good hockey players. Kulikov still, like, even last year with Edmonton, I didn't think he was that bad. I think it was a good acquisition. Didn't work out, obviously, didn't win shit, but I don't know. You know, you can add like Craig Smith in there, Marcus Johansson. There's a lot of guys in there that, like, you know, they're good players. Kyle Clifford, even.
Well, Clifford and Cassian have their own, like.
Yeah, it's just like, they're there. Obviously, I think Cassian was meant to be the more offensive guy, and it ended up being that they're kind of similar. Clifford definitely the more tougher, I guess the more feisty guy of the two. But ended up changing later on in the career where Clifford became like this like a defensive guy which I don't know if he really even was good defensively. I haven't seen his analytics on that, but Cassian's more of a, you know, I guess a fighting Kachuk guy and, you know, getting carried by McDavid guy like Maroon.
Other guys I want to mention on this draft. Ben Sherratt.
Ben Sherratt, Brian Dumoulin,
Marcus Foligno.
Yeah, he had a good season this year too. And Ben Sherratt did too until the finals. So those are two guys.
Marcus Kruger. I like Marcus. Yeah. Marcus Kruger was a big part of the Blackhawks runs that they don't mention.
Stanley Cup champions,
as he was the like penalty kill just specialist, just fucking killed it on penalties. Lyndon Vay in this draft, former Medicine Hat Tiger.
Yeah, he went on the Canucks for a bit. I think he's still in the KHL. He was actually killing in the KHL last time I checked.
Hasn't played in the NHL since 2017.
Yeah, he was a guy I always thought like he could pan out, but he never ended up doing it. He was still a decent enough player. I just didn't think he really wasn't NHL level for what he was because he was more of an offensive guy and never really worked out. But yeah, like in 2020, he had a 48-point season, 52 games with CSK Moscow. He's in St. Petersburg right now. Looks like a third or fourth line guy now. But yeah.
Speaking of Edmonton picks, Anton Lander.
He was the one where he kind of reminded me of like I thought he would have been like he reminded me of Armia. I don't know what it was. Him and Armia kind of reminded me of like a similar guy. Like Armia was taken pretty high too, but Lander, I don't know if Lander was he taken high?
He was taken 40th overall.
Yeah, so Armia was taking like top 15, 20, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I always thought like him and like I never thought like Armia would end up being like that first line guy they made that team he wanted, but like he could have been like a second, third line guy, which is what I thought with Lander, but that never worked out.
Lander played 215 games in his NHL career, 35 points, 10 goals, 25 assists, minus 41, and he had negative 0.8 point shares.
Okay. Yeah, I just remember the main reason a lot of my knowledge from back then was like I'd see these guys in NHL 11 or something or playing GM mode, and I'm like, oh, I'll Google them, and then I'll actually like, look at their like stats. Like I wouldn't obviously back down in 11, so I'm just looking at like his plus minus because I always thought like plus minus was this god tier stat, and obviously
that's a big deal. It's a big deal plus minus.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you have 100 points. You have 150 points in 80 games. Oh, you're minus 10. You suck. That was my 11-year-old thought process. But yeah, I always thought Lander was a guy who could have made like a third or fourth line with his potential back in NHL old games, but it never ended up working.
Yeah. So that's our 2009 NHL redraft pod.
Yeah. We got a few similar picks in there. We got a few like O'Reilly. We had obviously, I guess. Kemper. We started off early with a lot of same picks too, like Kemper and all that.
Maybe we'll. Maybe if I'm really ambitious, I probably won't be. But maybe if I'm really ambitious, I'll make a graphic and have our picks on said graphic. Maybe I'll do that later. I'll do that later when I'm not so bunched with stuff. As I say that, as if I'm not going to be bunched 2 weeks from now. Next 10 days, we'll probably do our 2014 NHL redraft pod as we get closer to the season. Next week, Scott and I are going to be doing a Metro Division preview as well as a Ryder Cup golf preview for the podcast next week.
Yeah.
So lots of hashtag content coming up for Speak Your Piece.
Thankfully, I think 2014 will be much more interesting than this draft. There's a lot of better players in that draft than there were in this draft.
Maybe not so
overall.
Maybe not so top heavy. Like
maybe not so top heavy. Maybe probably Pasta is top 5 there instead of 30th or 25th. You know, there's a lot of pick, but it's more interesting on Ekblad and stuff. Is Ekblad still number 1?
I really liked it. I really liked Ekblad.
Yeah, it didn't work out for a while, but obviously this year, besides the injury, it worked out great. Is Jacob Vrana going to be a top 10 pick? Who knows? You never know.
He actually might be. For obvious reasons. That's the podcast. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Be sure to check us out on Spotify.
Who do I bet on tomorrow? Cowboys?
I think your parlay is the Steelers, Cowboys, Cardinals, Seahawks.
Who's my money line pick for my $20 free bet? Cowboys? I think it's Cowboys.
Probably Cowboys.
Cowboys, fuck it. Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys? And then Stephen A. Smith when they lose tomorrow or Sunday.
Yeah.
And Stephen A. Smith on like Sunday night or Monday just be like, I told you dumbasses. You root for the shit team. And then
our first take without Max. Bring back Max Kellerman.
Yeah, well, he got Max out of there. He didn't want to work with Max anymore. Yeah.
Stupid.
I love it how player empowerment has now moved its way into sports media when Stephen A's just like, nah, I don't want to work with this guy anymore or trade me.
Yeah. And then and honestly, Max was half the reason I watched that show. Most of the reason, to be honest, more than he was.
Never forget the Iguodala moment.
Yep.
All right. That's the podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Yes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like this video on YouTube. Thank you again for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. We'll be back again soon. Peace out.
See ya.